I grew up feeling very empty. I remember from my childhood that most of my life I was ungrateful for a lot of things. Nothing was ever good enough for me. I think I sort of sabotaged myself growing up. I was sexually abused when I was very, very young, and I got the revelation, I think yesterday, that for my whole life because of that, I lived independently. I decided I didn't need anybody. I stopped believing in God when I was in 9th grade, right after I got confirmed. I finished high school. I had a great GPA. I went to college at Valencia, and then I switched over to UCF, and everything was going great. But I think my whole life I was always striving for something more. I was looking for something more, but I refused for that to be God, because I always told myself that if God existed, then there was no way I had free will. My parents actually got divorced. It all came as a shock, but the day that they actually got divorced was, I think, when it all hit. Sorry. So I was at UCF. UCF decided to put on a farmer's market, and a woman named Rosie was working there at a place called Old Hearth Bread Company. This particular Thursday, I went up to her and she told me I looked down. She wondered why I was so sad, and I kind of explained to her what had happened with my family. And she asked me if I needed a job, which was so weird because literally I had been in Orlando for 2 years, and for 2 years I had been searching for a job. And then Rosie was here just as this angel, and she gave me a giant hug, and then she offered me this job. She said if I could commit to her for coming to work for Thanksgiving and Christmas, then I'll have a job that Friday. And I was like, I'll do it. So I started working there, and I met Luke at Lineage, Jarrett, I met Justin. I met a lot of people at East End that were connected with this place, One Church. Still then, even though there's all these obvious signs thrown in my face, I never looked at them. I know that Pastor Justin had invited me to an Easter service once, and he gave me a card, and I don't know what it said on it, something about come to church, One Church on Easter, and I threw it in the garbage because I was so sure I wasn't going to come to church, especially on Easter, because I didn't care. One day, I wasn't working. I was at home, and I think it was the very first time that God spoke to me. He must have known that I was ready for it. I didn't really hear it as a voice, but I just felt something so deep inside of me that said, you need to reach out to Justin. I drove to East End hoping that I would run into Justin, but he was nowhere to be found. So I went out back, I went and sat in my car, and then God was like, okay, call him. But I didn't want to. And then I was like, fine, I'll call. I have no idea what I'm gonna call about, but I'll just make the phone call. Called Justin, and he didn't answer. And I was secretly cheering myself on, like, yes, good, he didn't answer. I don't have to talk to him. But I think I either called again or he called me back. Either way. So we met up on Monday, and I told him, I don't know what I'm here to talk about. I just really felt like we needed to speak, and that you were the one I was supposed to speak to. So I kind of just explained to him my situation, which at the time, I was in a toxic relationship, and I felt super stuck in my life, and I just was at the dead end. I had gone too far all by myself, and there was nowhere else to go. He invited me to church, and I weirdly felt okay about it. So I was like, okay, I'll go to church. For most of the time, the first few weeks of church, I didn't think anything about, okay, this is for God. None of that. It just felt like I had to be there every Sunday to listen to whatever Justin was going to preach about that Sunday. And of course, everything he said made me bawl my eyes out, and it was everything I needed to hear. I'm absolutely not empty anymore, and I think that's the biggest thing that I've got from giving my life to Christ. I'm Tiffany, and that's my one story.